Have you had any successes with the sort of initiatives that you've started? Has some of your research been able to resonate with the public sector? Is there any hope, as it were?
That's a good question. I think it has to be something that happens. I mean, these are really important questions because the government ends up spending our taxpayer money on things that should be. I mean, for example, the example that you gave related to money being spent on roads, a very small percentage of the residents of Lahore own a car or a motorbike, and a vast majority, especially the underpopulation, have to rely on public transport. So we are literally disenfranchising them, excluding them from the infrastructure that we are building, that the government is spending taxpayer money on. So it's a really difficult thing to bring about. The change that has to come from different ways, through sensitizing people, making them aware of the actual sources of pollution, letting them know that this entire discussion of cars being the primary source, of vehicular emission being the primary source of pollution, that's completely absent from the mainstream media. And all you hear, I mean, the other day I was looking at the ad, and it was focused on brick kilns again, and not on the vehicular emission. Because once you start questioning the vehicular emission, then you start questioning the development priorities of the government. So nobody wants to focus on that. And then we have already, we've already created a taboo around public transport as well. So this conversation is slowly shifting. So now that when we are sitting in panels like these, and there's a government official from EPA, so it's now becoming harder and harder for them to just completely dismiss the data coming from reference rate monitors or data coming from low-cost monitors.
They normally they come to discussions like this, but now they don't because they're cornered on the information.
And I think it's really important for everybody to understand this issue, so that it becomes harder and harder for them to dodge these questions. So as the awareness is there in the public, the awareness is there in the media, then we'll find it harder for them to dodge. There are lots of important initiatives. Like I think it's really important for us to sensitize journalists. Because of course they need to be careful on the reporting related to air quality, and the case that you mentioned of the babies, infants dying as a result of exposure to bad air in Lahore. A lot of that was dismissed, and there was just it's cold weather, and that's why these babies died. And there's much colder weather across Pakistan, but these babies died in Lahore. So it's really important on how we tell those stories as well.
Thank you for pointing that out. Ms. Mumtaz, and how has it otherwise impacted your work afterwards, the research that you've done?
I think one of the most significant problems that I realized was a lot of misdirection and miscommunication which was happening. So you've been in these circles, you're leading a lot of efforts, you realize how the government departments have been like, those monitors that you're using are really low cost, so we don't really believe them, or the threshold that we are using, maybe, let's change the AQI calculation method rather than actually fix the problem. Or, this is happening because India is, releasing smoke towards Pakistan, or somehow the poor farmer is the problem, the sole problem, the biggest problem, or the brick kilns. So that's where the real motivation for me was, that to have evidence to support these decision makers, to have evidence to really build our case. And sort of build that evidence from lots of different sources. So of course, the low-cost air quality monitors, having them spread across Pakistan, as Abid and Dawar are doing, that's really important to have very granular information. But then again, you need to look at other data sets to get a bigger picture of what's happening. So that's really the motivation of my work.
I just want to jump in and explain that when Abid started putting monitors up around Punjab, and they were online relaying data about AQI to the world, our Environment Protection Agency has refuted this information on account of the fact that it's collected in a way that is not in accordance with their own rules and procedures. So they deny this information entirely. In 2022, the then Minister of Environment of Punjab wrote a letter to the Federal Investigating Agency requesting them to investigate. How do you think the University of Management Technology here in Lahore? Thank you all for joining us. I want to start firstly by offering you perhaps 1 or 2 minutes each to introduce yourselves to the audience and a bit about the work that you do related to air pollution.